My lords, it is I, Legion Surf Plasticus. Welcome to the channel, I hope you're well. Now when it comes to 40k, there are two names you simply can't escape, regardless of how long you've been playing, reading or experimenting with a Warhammer. If you don't know who these guys are, don't worry, you won't be able to escape them for long. These guys are the big boys of Warhammer 40k, and even with the resurrection of Gilliman, remain extremely important characters in the lore for the hobby. For a long time, each of these guys has been the poster boy for their preferred faction in the setting. On the side of the ruinous powers, you have Abaddon, War Master of Chaos, wielder of the Talon of Horus, failed crusader, and although we don't know his ethnicity, he's definitely not an American, as he most certainly cannot bear arms. I'm sorry. On the other side, you have the most loyal, regal and chunky boy the Imperium has to offer, Marneus Calgar, chapter master of the Ultramarines, and all-round proud stepdad. Chances are, if you know these guys, then you know that due to plot armour, they're able to pull off the most bullshit in the setting, from beating a Primarch in 1v1 combat, beating off entire high fleets of like 50 times less Marines than the entire Blood Angel successors, beating Sigismund in the 1v1. I will never forgive GW for that particular heresy. Or just hopscotching the Lords of Skulls while ripping their heads off with your bare fists like it's nothing. Yes, there's plenty of bullshit when these guys are fighting a battle. But what if they had no plot armour? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, today through the most heinous of Belisarius Call's inventions to date, I, Legion Surf Plasticus, have managed to peel back each of these bad boys' plot armour, despite the screeches of anguish from Matt Wood. To see who would win in the 1v1 with nothing but their own skill to aid them. In order to do this, I've split the engagement down into categories, with each category feeding into the overall battle between these two titans, while I explain who I believe would win in said fight. Once I have done that, I will explore how the loss of both of these characters might affect the current setting, just for fun. So, let's get going. We'll start with experience. Starting with Abaddon, he has about 10,000 years of war under his belt. He fought at Horus's side, all the way to terror at the dawn of the heresy, before Calgar's gene seed was but a twinkle in the tech priest's eye. This marine has seen his Primarch fall, Fortis's legion was expunged from the galaxy, first by the Imperium, and then again by his traitorous kin, and yet still has managed to pull these forces together again, through force of arms and sheer will. This has provided him with a range of combat and leadership experience, as he shifted from the leader of the first company of the Lunar Wolves over time into the undisputed War Master of Chaos. He has fought countless enemies across countless worlds in both real space and against the forces of chaos themselves within the Eye of Terror. He undisputably has tons of experience under his belt. However, while 10,000 years of war seems like a lot, and it is, we petty mortals must remember that time in the warp is vastly different to that in real space. This could work in Abaddon's favour, meaning that one 100-year-long war fought in the Great Eye may only count for a day in real space, or it could work against him. Many traitor marines seem to have not aged in the same way those in real space have since the Horus heresy. This does generally mean that many consider time in the warp to be moving faster than that in real space. Personally, I do agree with this, but official lore and the general consensus is that the despoiler has been kicking for at least 10,000 years. One more thing to consider is that Abaddon has rarely fought any other enemy but the Imperium. Yes, the Eldar occasionally try to be the heroes of the setting, but generally Space Marines are this guy's forte. In comparison, Calgar's history is a little less documented, although I haven't really read the comic book series, so I might be slightly out of date here. The first known conflict with Marneus Calgar's chapter master is the First Tyrannic Wars of 754 M41. However, we can assume that prior to his elevation to chapter master, Calgar was around for at least a few decades / century or two before this gifted little blue boy ascended the ranks. It's now M42 and the dude's still kicking. So whilst I'd say he's at least 600 to 700 years old, at max he's likely only had a 1,000 year tour of duty. Despite this, I'd argue that his strategic acumen is greater than Abaddon's, because he does fail less. A lot less. Maybe you can just put Abaddon's failures down to the even greater plot armour the Imperium once enjoyed. Regardless, Calgar probably has a greater depth of experience in fighting other races, and likely has an overall greater gift for strategy. However, I'd say, in terms of experience, Abaddon has undoubtedly been around for longer. I would argue he has less range of experience fighting other races than Calgar, but I just can't give this one over to Calgar. Abaddon's sole mission is to destroy the Imperium. He's been at it for 10,000 years, and despite a lack of experience fighting other races, he lives to murder other Space Marines and ruin a poor guardsman's day. You can't deny the man this one, no matter how you frame it. Combat capabilities. Abaddon is a beast in combat. His lists of epic deeds cover killing a clone of his own Primarch, beating Sigismund in the 1v1 combat, turning his battered legion into the Black Legion before skull-fucking all the other traitor legions into A, either joining him, or B, leaving him and his men the fuck alone. And let's not forget, he literally boasts the boon of all 4 Chaos Gods, taking this guy to Super Saiyan levels of power in combat. As for his tactical acumen, as previously mentioned, I would personally agree that while he obviously has a great strategic mind, bringing to heel the traitor legions and organising all of their actions in a war zone, his plans just haven't really worked out in the past, and more recently he has only won because he threw a bajillion-ton Blackstone tantrum at Cadia after getting beaten by the Imperial Guard once again. Calgar, on the other hand, seems to have his plans work out more often, and was single-handedly able to lead the Ultramarines to victory during the First Tyrannic War. Bullshit, I know, but still a massive achievement to essentially murder an entire hive fleet with a few battle barges and likely some local Imperial Navy assets. He's no pushover in close combat either, having survived a fight with the Swarm Lord whilst already mortally wounded, slaying the Avatar of Cain, yes I know, and single-handedly holding off an entire Orc horde for a day and a night during the Siege of Valfrax. Pretty good, eh? Overall, I do think Calgar takes the edge when it comes to how capable a fighter he is. Whilst I do think Abaddon will be the stronger melee fighter of the two, Calgar's cunning would likely give him an edge in both personal combat and the wider war. Weapons. When it comes to what these guys are armed with, it's relics and awesome stuff galore. I guess that's what you get for pledging your soul for cool powers, or being lucky and being born a white kid in a good neighbourhood. Abaddon has an absolutely ancient Cataphractii pattern set of Terminator armour. Drachnion, basically Chaos's burning blade, possessed by the demon created by the first murder, and his old Primarch's lightning claw, the Talon of Horus, which is a Stormbolter attachment for good measure. Drachnion is so strong it can literally rip through real space and create warp portals, which could lead to some sly moves in combat. On top of this, he also has the protection of all 4 Chaos Gods at his back. His armour is nigh impenetrable, and his weapons do a metric shit ton of damage. Calgar, on the other hand, has taken the gifts of Belisarius Cawl, becoming a Primaris Marine. Whilst this would normally mean he'd be bigger and stronger than Abaddon, on paper, it's stated that even before he ascended, Abaddon was already so big he basically only wore Terminator armour and could move in it with ease. So no extra points for being extra muscly for Calgar here. So what gear is a man packing? Well, Calgar currently favours the armour of Heracles, modified Gravis armour that allows him to move as swiftly as a powered armoured marine, and the gauntlets of Ultramar, 2 big ass power fists with inbuilt bolters. So in terms of physical prowess, while Abaddon in my eyes held the undeniably largest pecs in the past, Calgar's ascension to Primaris has helped tip the scales back in favour of our pumped up boy in blue. Overall though, I feel the fact you are Primaris just can't compete with a guy literally infused with the power and strength of the Chaos Gods. On top of that, I feel whilst Calgar has some awesome war gear, it just cannot stand up to Abaddon's ancient murder sword and the literal weapon of a Primarch. This is kind of backed up by the short encounter Abaddon and Calgar have on Vigilus, where Drachnion literally goes through the gauntlets of Ultramar like butter. Not looking great for Calgar here. So, here we go. The clash of these 2 titans with all their plot armour stripped bare. Whilst the effort to repair Vigilus goes well, Calgar broods over Data Slate in the Grand Observatorium of his warship. The room is lit only by the stars visible in the viewing portal. A small chime alerts Calgar to a problem. A very big problem. Abaddon's ship carves its way through the warp at the head of the Black Legion armada, the vengeful spirit's ugly and battered frame ripping through the warp and creating devastating shockwaves as it rams back into real space. A cruel smile creeps up a scarred and ancient face. It is time, brothers. Begin the assault. This time Vigilus is ours. Calgar calmly sifts through data bursts in the command centre of his flagship, calmly judging enemy strengths, adjusting his own fleet's positions, and preparing his Ultramarines for battle. The enemy begin their attack in earnest, blazing down the right flank in an attempt to put the wreckage of a previous battle between them and the Loyalists. On his command deck, Calgar raises an eyebrow. Abaddon simmers in a cold rage. The lifeless mortal slips in ragged chunks between the sizzling blue of his lightning claws. His fleet is trapped, and the anguish of not having been in the combat gnaws at Abaddon's fraying patience. Calgar watches patiently as his ship and the remainder of the Imperial Navy push through the debris field to complete the encirclement of the dying traitor's fleet when he feels it. The static tingle. A moment before the combat begins, he turns to face the doorway of his command station. Abaddon snarls into reality and immediately unloads his Talon Stormbolter into the mortal crew before turning to face his true enemy. Leaving his Terminator Vanguard to deal with a contemptuous Honor Guard, he draws Drachnien and advances upon the pompous scion of Guilliman. Calgar ducks the hail of bolts as Abaddon, in full Terminator armour, charges him, barely dodging as a dark purple blade passes by his ear. He thinks he hears the soul of a man, spluttering and dying as the blade passes. He strikes with the gauntlets of Ultramar, but finds thin air. Abaddon expertly drags his frame from the oncoming blow, and in less than a millisecond has turned this momentum into a swing with the talons that rake across the Ultramarine's chest, gouging huge rents in his armour and drawing blood. Calgar doesn't even flinch. Launching a punch into the gut of the towering dark-plated War Master of Chaos, it dents the war plate and staggers the warrior. "I hear your father breathes again," Abaddon snarls as he launches an attack with the talon once again. Calgar blocks with a return punch from his own gauntlets, shattering the talons. As the flecks of metal shower him, he looks the murder in the eye. "I heard yours died, whimpering at the foot of the Emperor," Abaddon screamed as he launched his flurry of blows with Drachnien. "My father was weak. I am the true War Master." Each swing was hastily blocked, but to little effect, the warrior's gauntlet seeming to crack and fracture with every slice. Blood flecked his face, and he tasted victory. Calgar's hands were but a bloody mess in gauntlets that now drew blood from his hands every time the fractured metal moved against his skin. He roared, unleashing all his fury and the full capacity of the gauntlet's ammo into the face of Abaddon. He thought he heard laughing, even as his own gauntlets dug deeper into his wrists, and now forearms. Abaddon watched in amusement as the bolt exploded a mere few centimetres from his face. The whispers of power and of promises now fulfilled surrounded him. His limbs burnt with new energy, and he carved into his opponent, first by removing the Lord's arms, before puncturing his primary heart with Drachnien. Calgar grunted, coughing on his own blood. He looked to the hollow table, damaged by the combat, but still functional. The small rendition of his fleet beginning to mop up the retreating enemy, and then darkness. Abaddon lifted the body of Calgar and Drachnien for all the remaining Ultramarines to see. Fires, broken sparks from equipment, and the explosions of distant warship lit the command deck. Blood dripped from Calgar's body onto his face, and he began to laugh. And there you go, guys. In my opinion, Abaddon just cannot really be beat by Calgar in a straight up 1v1. His boons from the gods and his weaponry are just way too powerful, even for the mighty Calgar to deal with. I do think, despite losing the 1v1, Calgar may still have engineered winning of the war. His tactical acumen, I don't think should be underestimated at all. But yeah, I don't think he's able to take this one. But yeah, that's just my opinion. So as I mentioned before, I'm just going to quickly go through what might happen if these guys did actually die in the setting, and just see, just for a bit of fun really, what that might mean for the lore going forward. So personally, I feel the lore is at a point where if Calgar did die, it would have impact, but could easily be incorporated into the wider lore. Maybe this is where Guilliman returns to lead his chapter once again. Personally, I'm not too sold on that. I think he's very focused on being the Lord Commander of the Imperium, and he's trying to maintain an image of non-favoritism. I think it's much more likely that I, Cato Sicarius, shall take up the mantle of Chapter Master. Dude, yeah, you're a candidate for sure, but I mean, there's also Uriel Ventress, Severus Agaman, Chief Librarian Tigerius, or, maybe even Decimus Felix, although, again, that's a bit of a long shot. But yeah, I feel the Ultramarine Chapter Master would step up and try rival Calgar's 28 pages of great deeds. I don't think it would really shake up the lore too much. I think it would be cool to see the Ultramarines going through that kind of loss, and see how Guilliman reacts to that really, and what kind of thing would happen there. But yeah, I think it's something that they could sort of take on the chin and make into quite an interesting storyline. On the other hand, Abaddon's death would be a much, much bigger blow for the lore and to Chaos, as there's no clear leadership or successor once he dies. Chaos doesn't really thrive as an effective force without a leader. I mean, yeah, it's great for the gods to watch for vast armies falling into even more chaos, but it's not really great for an actual war effort. I do think that if he did die, there would be massive consequences for Chaos. Traitor warlords, primarchs, and even the gods would just start vying for power again. Obviously, it would be likely a good thing for the Imperium. Chaos could be busy infighting, and they could sort of get a bit of a break and organise themselves better to begin to plan how they're actually going to sort out this Elytrix Maledictum. But yeah, I think within Chaos, there's no clear one as to who may become the next War Master. I guess You know, if I'd maybe shortlist it, Lorgar and Erebus might try and see themselves as, you know, the next War Master. They've done it in the past, trying to launch a coup against Horus during the Heresy. And I think that they see themselves as just the humble servants of chaos. You know, they worship the pantheon, all 4 gods, and they're blessed by all of them, so there might be like a uniting factor there. I mean, if not, I don't know, maybe like a sly sort of character, Fabius Bile, you know, I don't really know, to be honest. I think it would definitely cause a bigger stir, and maybe even some plot holes within the 40k setting, if Abaddon did die. Yeah, I think it's a lot worse than Calgar's For the Law, a lot bigger impact, and there's a lot that they may have to fix if that was the case. But yeah, let me know if you guys have any ideas of how one of these guys dying might affect the law. Pop the poll in the description asking who you think would actually win in the fight. Do you think I'm right? Would Calgar like put up more of a fight, do you think? Or do you think I'm just straight up wrong and Calgar would just take the victory? Let me know in the comments, guys. It would definitely be interesting to read some of your theories. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please drop the video a like and subscribe. I'm just getting on my feet with this stuff, and seeing stuff like this sort of really motivates me to keep going. Thanks for your time, and as always, anything for you, my lords.